months into it, she sent me an amazing message saying, "My family would like to thank you for setting up the foundation." Because apparently
What's one misconception that people can get wrong around sort of para sport?
Having been a rider at a fairly high level that I was, I know what can go wrong with a horse. So being put on a horse with a body that doesn't work was a massive leap of faith.
But in today's show, we're diving into a story that's got everything: resilience, business success, and elite sport, and a huge passion for making a difference. Our guest has helped flip hotels, secure millions in funding for major projects. But beyond that, they've also rebuilt themselves after a life-changing accident took everything from them. They fought their way back to Paralympic dressage, even earning a spot on the British team and an international podium finish. When they're not riding, they're a business consultant specialising in procurement and growth, and the founder of a Para Equestrian Foundation. But more than that, they're an example of what is possible when you put mindset, determination, and community comes together. Di, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
No problems. So let's start from the beginning. Your path has been anything but traditional. It's taken you across multiple industries: hotels, business consultancy, elite sport. Looking back, what were sort of some of the key moments that shaped you along the way?
I think I've always had a very good work ethic. I wanted a horse when I was very young. My family were not horsey, and so I had to really make my own pathway with that. So helping at local stables, cycling miles to get to a horse's yard, and really sort of working for peanuts, as you could in those days. And eventually managed to get my father to say, "Okay, you can have a horse, but you've got to be able to look after it." So I had to work Saturday jobs and things to be able to look after it. And that, I think, kind of set the seed for me then, knowing the value of money, and the value of your input into things that you want to achieve. So I think pretty much that's where it all started.
In your business life as well, then, those are quite good foundations to carry forward. You've helped clients flip hotels and secure massive funding deals, but your accident changed everything. Can you sort of take us back to that time and what sort of rebuilding from zero actually felt like for you and actually looked like for you?
Yeah. So I had my own yard at the time. I was still consulting for a business, but I had my own stable yard and pretty much did everything myself. I had the odd person who helped me on a freelance basis, but mostly it was just me. And I retrained horses from injury, so rehabbing them back into dressage horses, or horses off of the racetrack into dressage horses. And I had it was January, very cold, snappy weather, frost on the ground. And a horse arrived in the yard at night with us at the beginning of January, and I'd been told by the trainer, he was a racehorse, that he'd been roughed off, and in horsey terms that means they'd been out in a field wandering about, so you'd expect them to be quite calm when they arrive. And actually when he arrived he was in a very severe bit, so the lad was holding on to him as he got him off the lorry, and he said to me, no, he's not been roughed off, he's just been in a slightly bigger stable. Now, had we known that, we wouldn't have taken him in January, because you really want to be able to have a horse go out in a field when it's been on box rest in a sort of sustained manner, in a controlled manner. And January doesn't really afford you that. So, but he's arrived, we couldn't send him back, so we made do. We kept him in a slightly bigger box again, for a couple of days, and then it was time to turn him out. So safest way to do that is to get your local vet to come and see you, and sedate them. So they have a mild sedative that just sort of takes the edge off a bit. We did that. The vet came, gave him an injection to sedate him slightly, and then had a call on his mobile, and the call was from a village a bit further on than us, where they had a horse with a severe colic, which is life-threatening for a horse. So he said, "I'm going to have to go. You know what you're doing. We've done this about 30 times. It's fine with it." And off he went, and we waited for a little bit, and the sign for a sedated horse normally is they get a sort of bottom lip droop, and their ears go forward a bit, and they just look a little bit less sharp. He was like that, so we started leading him out. My sister had come to the yard to help me, leading one of my other horses out in front, so he had a guide to follow to the field, and we only had a very short distance to go, probably about 12 foot. So you'd imagine that is not too exciting.
Yeah.
We put boots on the horses, we protect all their legs because they're very fragile. Off we went. He got out of the stable. The cold air of January hit him. He woke fully from the sedation, and he flybucked. So he kicked both legs out of the back and caught me just here. So took out my eye socket, my nose, and my cheekbone. pretty horrific injury, to be fair.
Yeah.
Your face is a crumple zone. It is designed to crumple to protect your brain, but when it happens, it's quite
It's
dramatic.
still a little bit more than a couple of paracetamols to
It
make
is.
it feel a bit better, isn't it?
Yeah,
Wow.
smarts a little bit. But interestingly enough, I learned at that point that if you have such a huge injury, your pain receptors stop firing,
Okay.
and it's a protection. So I never ever felt any pain from it, which is quite peculiar.
Yeah. Well, luckily it's not every day you get fly bucked in the
No,
face, but you
it's
don't
not.
want it very often. But I mean,
No.
even if you have a tennis ball or something like that hit you, you can still feel it. But I suppose
Yeah.
the force and the ferociousness of that must have been,
Yeah. Quite
yeah,
traumatic.
quite a lot.
I was very fortunate when it happened in Gloucestershire, and at the time, the maxillofacial surgeon was a gentleman called Mr. Harrison. He was based at Cheltenham General Hospital, and he was running a seminar for the day for maxillofacial surgery. So he had different consultants from all around the globe descended on Cheltenham, and they used me as one of their projects. In I came, and so I had an Iranian gentleman, a Welsh gentleman, and Mr. Harrison himself, and I think a Canadian who all did elements of my face.
Wow. That's
Yeah, and my mother actually was a caterer, and they did lots of society weddings and lots of social events and things. And one of the big ones they did every year was the hospital ball, and it was the consultants all organised it for all of the staff. And so she knew Mr. Harrison, and when she came into the hospital, sometime after I arrived, she saw him and he was like, "What are you doing here?" And she said, "My daughter's just been brought in." And he said, "I'll look after her." And to be fair to him, he was much to the annoyance of the nurses, because he actually came on the ward every day to change the dressings. He didn't let them do any of it, which was quite remarkable. They put me back together pretty well, really. I had some scarring and I don't have feeling in this side of my face, but considering what it was like before, it was pretty good.
Yeah. And
Pretty good.
most people might struggle to pick themselves up after such a big setback,
Yeah.
let alone being able to get back into sort of elite sport. What was that sort of moment that you sort of knew you're ready to get back into the saddle? Because sometimes you hear people having accidents and they never want to go back to that sport again. What made you feel that you were ready?
I think it's any equestrian will tell you. It's in you. It's just part of your persona. They just embed themselves. It's like a virus. Once you've had a horse, you can never not have a horse
Yeah.
or an association to a horse, or there is something. And actually, after my accident, I had another accident. I went back to the yard and tried to pick up where I left off, and I was run over by a horse. I mean, you couldn't make it up.
Not on another global convention at the
No.
hospital.
But I fractured the back of my skull. So that was not good. And then my consultant said to me, "Look, you've got titanium in there. We cannot repair it if you do it again. So stop it." So stop it. And that was a bit of a thing. And of course, my husband really thought, "This is ridiculous. You just can't do it anymore." So that's the point where I lost everything, really. I lost the yard, I lost the horses. 15 years later, I then started to get numbness in my hands and numbness in my legs and all sorts of weird sensations. And I went to run up the stairs one day and I just couldn't lift the leg to run. So sort of face planted on the step, and went to the doctors and they said, "Don't know what this is." So lots and lots of diagnoses later that they had eventually then came up with, I think it was about 2008, that they'd got a version of multiple sclerosis. And they think, looking back of it, now, the two head injuries that I had were quite significant head injuries. Probably had some bleeds on the brain that were not picked up because I didn't have scans in those days. This is 28 years ago, possibly now. I don't make a thing of the date because it doesn't define me. I can't change it. So it's very much a forward motion for me. But the MS obviously then took everything again that I started to build back up. But a consultant said to me, quite comically, really, that Gloucester Royal actually said to me, "Look, this is the diagnosis. This is what it is. But I noticed you used to be a horse rider." And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "You need to do it again." I said, "Ridiculous. I can't get on a horse. And I can't. I had Grand Prix horses, the dancing horses. I can't sit in my wheelchair hardly." So I'd lost all my core from being in a chair all the time. My hip flexors were wonderful things that are great when you can stand up, but if you can't, they shorten and then you struggle to stand up. So I said, I just can't do it. Anyway, he persuaded me that it was a good idea. And so it was just after 2012. So we'd had the Paralympic movement in London 2012. So every riding for the disabled centre in the country was booked out solid.
Wow.
Most of them were only taking children because children are easier than adults to work with. You don't have to have horses, it's ponies, it's a lot easier. But I eventually found one in Cirencester at the Watershed RDA. So went along to there and they said, come and have a test day, and went and met the team and then cried because they got me on a horse, but that was it. They got me on a horse. And it's a
Wow.
huge leap of faith to be put on a horse when your body doesn't work. Especially as having been a rider at a fairly high level that I was, I know what can go wrong with a horse. It means so being put on a horse with a body that doesn't work was a massive leap of faith.
And also, I'd imagine then trying to, I suppose, have that relationship with the horse when you were able to use your body proficiently, and then getting back on and going, well, hang on, I would normally do this particular movement to bond with the horse or get on with it. Well, actually, I can't move that part, which must be again another mindset shift to get past.
Yeah, massive, massive. And I'd gone from being very independent, going anywhere on a horse, to now having somebody stood either side of me with their hand on my thigh, somebody leading the horse on a lead rein, and then somebody stood behind me with their hand in the small of my back to make sure I didn't pitch backwards. And that was tricky for me
Yeah.
because it's so different. I mean, it couldn't be any different. And the getting off as well, they have to get you off the horse. And again, you can't, I don't know where my legs are at all when I ride. So you're basically manhandled, but in a kind way, but it's obviously not the norm as I would have known it.
Yeah,
So
well, I suppose you would have just been able to get up a couple of steps, hop on, and off you go, and just
yeah,
somebody shut the gate when you were going into the menage or something. But now
yeah,
having all of that around you, having that mindset and that conversation, almost a throwaway conversation from the consultant, say, well, just get back on the horse,
yeah.
as if it was nothing, or takes the wall down from being almost unachievable to it's only a little dry stone wall. I think I could possibly get past that. And if we move beyond sport for a moment, you've built a hugely successful career in business. And if we talk about that side for the moment, coming back from your own personal setbacks, mindset is clearly a big part of it. How has that transitioned into your business life and things like that?
Yeah, so I think I'm a performance coach, so I work with teams as well now that are sales teams and things to look at how they drive sales and how they improve revenue and all those sorts of things. And for me, it's the understanding that you have two elements to your brain. So you have an emotional side and you have a technical side. And the emotional side is the one that jumps in when you go to touch something hot or you go to talk in an open room and you're shy. It's that protector. And it's always the one that jumps in first. And it's the one that makes you feel the imposter syndrome. We're not worthy, or the going into a big deal with a bank like I've done on a board of bank managers asking for £30 million worth of funding to the small chap that sat beside me, not knowing what on earth's going on.
Yeah.
But I'm confident in that environment because I know I'm good at this. But it's very different for me on a business front than it was for me personally, because personally, I was vulnerable as a disabled person on a horse. And I'm not vulnerable in the business world. I know I'm good at it. I know I'm confident at it. And I know that any negative doubt I get is that emotional side of my brain just reminding me that it's there. But the technical side of my brain is able to blank it pretty much instantly. But it's taken me time, and there are skills you need to develop to be able to do that. I went to a meeting once for a big hotel build, and the gentleman who was coming with me to that meeting to present from the hotel brand's perspective got caught in Belgium. They had an incident at the airport, couldn't get out. So he just very casually said, can you present mine? Okay. I don't even know what it is. So I haven't even seen it. So I just had to go with it and wing it with a board full of bankers and
Oh,
the local councillors and things, because it was a massive part of a big city build and the hotel was sort of the anchor of it. And I just winged it, if I'm honest. because they didn't know that I didn't know. They'd never met me before. I very confidently did our pitch. I was there representing the owner of the scheme, and he was rubbish at that kind of thing. So I led it, and that was fine. And we went down in the lift afterwards, and the head of the bank just happened to walk into the lift, and he said to me, "That was one of the best presentations I've seen and heard. Thank you for that."
Wow.
Probably because I winged it.
Yeah.
You know,
And you
there's nothing
suppose you were
worse than
then
death by slides, is there?
no,
So, and it wasn't death by slides because I didn't know the slides,
so you're
but
just
they
like,
were
"I'll have
new
a
to
quick
me.
skim read and see what it is," and, "Oh, okay,
Yeah,
I think I can do that," which is fine.
yeah. So they were new to me, and we secured the £30 million worth of funding.
Wow. I suppose that's coming from that mindset shift of knowing, right, it's either this side or this side of your brain,
Yeah, it is.
and having that confidence
But it's
around you.
recognizing it. It's recognizing it. And I still get it, like everybody. You know, you'll go into a competition arena and there are 15 people in your class, 5 of which have got gold medals. And you go, I'm not worthy in this. What the hell? And then you go, so I had an incident of exactly this at the national championships 2 years ago. And we have a summer and a winter national championships. And so this was the winter one. And actually, it was a summer one, but it's in the winter, which is a bit weird. Anyway, so, and both my horses were out injured. So the lady who owned the said, you can ride Scout. Now, Scout was 26-year-old horse, which is older for a horse. And he was a brown and white pony. He wasn't a horse, really, it's small. And she said to me, you can ride Scout this season. So we went, and you have to qualify for the nationals. So we went, did the qualifiers, and we came second, I think, in that, which is brilliant. And then we qualified for the nationals, and we went all the way up to for them. And we arrived night before, went and warmed up in amongst all the Olympians and everybody that were there, you know, the able-bodied Olympians, because you'd run alongside them.
Yeah.
So that was quite funny seeing this little pony in there doing that. And then it came to the day and she lost her confidence. And she was walking around with me to start with. We have a little warm-up session beforehand, and then you get called and you go in and do your test. And you have 3 judges at a national championships all giving their opinion on you. And they've got a huge, big scoreboard, and a digital one. And you never look up at the scoreboard while you're competing because it can throw you. You either get too excited because you're doing really well, or you get really depressed because you're not, and then you throw your marks away. So you never look at it. However, the lady who I was with, it was her pony. She said she just patted him as I went in, and she said, looked up at me. She'd lost all her confidence, and she just went, I'll be happy if you get 65%. And I was like, what? I said, just get off me. Let me go. We're winning this, and we're getting a personal best. And she just looked at me, and I rode off, full of confidence on this little pony. And off we went. We did our thing. He was amazing. And I looked up, which I never do, but there's a circle that you come off because there's lots of intricate designs we have to do. The choreography is quite crazy. It's here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah.
And we came off one of the circles. I just happened to look up, and we were trending on first place. And I was like, yes, Scouty, we've got it. And I gave him a little scratch on the wither, the bit in front of his saddle on his shoulder. And he just powered off with me. And it was just, it's just an amazing feeling when you get that from a horse that you are at one with them.
One with them, yeah.
And it looks like I'm not doing anything when I'm sat on these horses, but I am telepathically and physically, but it's very, very minor.
It's very, I suppose, very intuitive and also very, like you say, in tune. You are one with the horse and having
Yeah.
that bond and bringing everything together to integrate as one, really.
It is 100%. And then obviously we came out, there were 2 more riders to go after us. So it's still anybody's game. Went and took little Scout to his stable and went back to the lorry to get ourselves a bottle of water. And it came over the announcement that we'd won it. And we were like,
That's your 65%.
yeah, we'd won it. We got a personal best. We'd won the whole thing, and it was the gold. You can't get any higher than that. So that was incredible, and just something I'll never forget because it was so unexpected.
Yeah, which is lovely when you have those
But
moments.
it was 100% the mindset.
Yeah, 100%.
Then we did a lot with.
Sorry. And for somebody wanting to return to sport, like you've got so much enjoyment by being back in the saddle
Yeah.
from going through a tough period. What would be some of the first simpler steps or easy steps, like that consultant lowered the barrier for you to go, oh, I can do that. What perhaps should they focus on to get back on track?
I think it's understanding what you did before. And, if it's an injury that you're coming back from, which inevitably it is, there is a para pathway. Most sports may not. And so para endurance, for instance, in another equestrian sport where you're riding distances, it's not a Paralympic sport, but it is still a para sport. So, unfortunately, not all sports are Paralympic. So you can have an Olympic sport, but there isn't a version of it in the para circuit. But there is always a pathway, whether you want to start at a low level, a sort of county level, or a regional level, and then go up to a national level. And if there is an Olympic, up to a Paralympic level. There are huge opportunities to do that, and there are days where you can go along and do a mixture of different sports and have a go. They have a go days.
Okay.
They're really good. The Paralympic Committee organise those. So if you do a Google search, you can find out about those. And there are a number of grant bodies that do similar things. But I really think it's the mindset of, when the consultant first said to me, just go and do it, I was like, okay, it's all right for you to say, how the hell am I going to get on a horse? But it was a circle of life for me. I used to be a coach at the RDA, riding for the disabled, when I was 19, 20. So to go back as a customer some years later, it was a bit of a shock, but at least I knew it was there. It was an option that I could do that. And I think that's one of the things when people want to come back into a sport, it's knowing where you find that sport.
Yeah.
But normally there's a regional level that you can tap into, or follow me on my socials and ask me, and I can put you in the right pathway.
So this will then be all around what you've sort of described here is there's a wonderful community around it, which must be closely linked to mindset, because for you to go and help out when you were 19 and then full circle to come back, that's still a community that welcomes people, which is brilliant. And mindset and community are both closely linked, and it's important to have that both in business, but also the foundation that you've started as well, which we'll come on into a moment. But how does that sort of translate, having that mindset and community, into sort of a long-term success that you're reaping some of the rewards of now?
Yeah, I think for me, it's been about finding my tribe, as they call it, getting the right support team around you, because what you can't have, and on the program of mine that we'll talk about later, is that we look at everything. So we look at the people supporting you. We don't want any negative Nancy's on the team, as we call them.
Yeah.
Because they disempower you. And for me, it's all about empowering people. I empower people in business, and I empower people in sport, but also in their everyday life. We've got a lady on our program who has an autistic daughter who's on the program with us. One of my big things I love doing is goal setting, because goal setting makes you really get clear on what you want to do, what you want to achieve. But it also helps you to understand that actually the goals are not really your goals, it's the outcomes of what you're doing to get there. So she, for instance, started working with us 2.5 years ago now, didn't speak to me at all. It was always off camera. She was there, but her mother would be the lead. We started doing the goal setting things with her, and then we started a little private WhatsApp group with me and her mum and her. And then I had a call from her mum saying, we don't know what's happened, but the school asked us to go in, and the school have said, what's happened to her? Because she's suddenly getting involved in class. She's suddenly smashing all of her targets. And she said, I told them it's you, because she's done this work with you. And if you go into her room, she's printed out the work. I give them a workbook. She's printed out the workbook. It's all over her wall, and she's doing it every day, and she's doing it for everything. So it's not just the horses she's doing it for. She's doing it for her schoolwork. She's doing it for her social activities, which is just amazing, really.
But then that's coming back to that full circle again with what you've gone through yourself to then be
Yes.
able to do it, which then that leads us nicely into your foundation that you've started, which is the Para Equestrian Foundation. And already with that snippet, it sounds like it's doing incredible work. But what sort of really inspired you to start it, and what impact are you hoping it can continue to make?
Yeah. So the reason I started it was that every year I go to the national championships for the riding for the disabled, and I do the prize giving, which I love doing. I wear my British team kit, and that's aspirational for people.
Yeah.
And I just love doing it. And it's a mixture of very young children up to people in their 70s and 80s do this. It's carriage driving, it's vaulting, it's dressage, it's endurance, it's the countryside challenge where they go around a little route on a horse and they post envelopes. It's open to everybody at any level. It's really inclusive and I just love going to it. So I met along the way a number of athletes whose parents had said, can you help us get into the sport? Or they'd approached me directly themselves. And so I'd ended up with probably about 6 riders across the country that I was mentoring, and they'd just come to me with any questions they had, all those kinds of things, which was great. And then we had lockdown, we had COVID and we had lockdown. And during that time, because I was on the British team, we were very fortunate that we had letters from our governing body, British Equestrian, that said that we had the authority to go out to our horses. Now, most people couldn't do that, but because we were campaigning for Tokyo at the time, we were able to go out and keep riding. Now, all the RDA centres across the country had to close because they were all run by volunteers. There's lots of people. It was too close contact. You couldn't touch people. You had 2 meters rule didn't work. So we were very fortunate, and I 100% we were very fortunate. It was actually quite creepy because we'd go down the M5 and we'd be the only car on it, apart from 2 or 3 lorries. It was really peculiar on the way to the stables. And so we had a really different, and nothing changed for us during COVID. The only thing we didn't have were competitions to go to because we did everything else, with our horses, like nothing had happened. So actually, for me as well, the hotels that I mentor and work with and consult for, they were open as well because they took in homeless people.
Right. Okay.
So I did a lot of work with them with that. So when the homeless were given hotel rooms, a lot of the hotels that I work with opened their doors to that. So we had the hotels going. So nothing really changed for me. I was still busy.
Just quieter roads so you could get to your meetings
quieter
and
roads.
to training a little bit easier, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. But what happened was that the people that I was mentoring were coming to me now with actually with mental health problems because the horses are their lifeline. Not only is it physical therapy, which is a hugely amazing physical therapy, I suffer with really bad spasms because of the MS. And so if you've ever had cramp, that's a spasm to me. And they contort my legs into body shapes. And if I ride, I get none of it on the day, and it lasts 48 hours. If I don't ride 48 hours, extreme. And they're shouty out pain. So I know the benefits of it as a therapy. And of course, these athletes weren't able to do it. So I messaged them and said, look, do you want to come on a Zoom call? So we got them on a Zoom call and it was just brilliant for them. It was an outlet for them. It was keeping in with the horsey stuff. And then we started doing a bit with my horses with them, me doing live things with them with my horse so they could see the horses. And then I suddenly thought one night, there's something here that I really could do. We could just build this. And I spoke to another couple of people that I thought might support me, and then overnight launched it. And so now we have, as you can see on my jacket, we've got lots of different horsey things going on. So we've got carriage driving, we've got the vaulting, we've got endurance, we've got everything you can do on a horse effectively in a competitive way or a therapeutic way. And we work with the RDA. We work with British Equestrian as the link between the two. So we've got riders who work with us and they are really for therapy and leisure riders. And then we've got riders who are up in the elite of the sport. And we've got riders who went to the World Games. Carriage driving came up with a bronze, some of our athletes.
Wow.
We've got drivers that we're supporting to campaign to go to this year's World Games for carriage driving. We've got the FEI endurance riders. It's a massive, but it's one big community. And I didn't want to separate them. I didn't want to have grassroots and the elite. I wanted everybody in together so that everybody can see what it takes to be an elite athlete, but also the elite athletes can support the grassroots people coming through. And that's exactly what's happened. So it's quite incredible that the community comes together like it does.
And I
Of all
suppose,
different
again,
disciplines.
dare I say, there's a lot of crossovers from your business into where you are in the community and the foundation and any sport. There's a huge crossover there. But again, if you've then got the people that are coming in as a leisure, but they then can still have access to the elite, they might not want to get to that elite level, but it's a bit like you going to see that consultant and just lowering the barrier and going, okay, you just do this. And the elite people can just say, well, I've struggled with this. Really? You're really human like me as well, and it's again
Yeah.
makes that connection which is so powerful. And the foundation sounds like it's doing an amazing thing across so many different avenues now, which is
Yeah.
brilliant. It's probably going to be quite hard for you to answer this next question then, is what really sticks in your mind, or what was some of the sort of takeaway moments that's made you think, wow, this is why we do what we do? I know you mentioned the autistic person a moment ago,
Yeah.
transition not into sport, but into life. Have you got any more like that?
Yeah. So I think all of the athletes that we have are remarkable. And you said it initially about me with my own accident that, you know, you've gone back to writing. And I do have, my horses are huge, huge horses now. It's not the pony that I started with, and it's not the pony I won the nationals with. They're proper big dressage horses. The fact that we have riders coming back into the sport that have been injured by a horse. We've got riders who are completely paralysed from the waist down or the chest down that are riding again. And we have an amazing young lady who had a brainstem stroke, which is just the worst nightmare for anybody and any family. She was a rider, violinist, a real show off in the world of overachieving.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is, I think a lot of people are, but they don't notice they are because it's just your daily routine, isn't it? It's what you do. But she started coming to see the horses. That's where she started. And I work on the ground with my horses, lead them from my scooter, from my wheelchair, and they know me. They know to be gentle around me. They can't be stupid because they are proper horses. They are a flight animal. Any time of danger, horses just go. But mine don't because they know I can't do that. So they have to keep a lid on it. Anyway, she came to see us and she's got a wheelchair that rises up so she can be standing height. And of course, that was a little bit scary for them. They've never seen that, but they were just remarkable with her. And her dream was to have a horse alongside her so she could lead it. Now, Lexi, who's a horse that I'm very bonded with, she's a remarkable horse. We thought, I wonder if she'd do it for Bex. If she does it for me, will she do it for her? I don't know. Anyway, so we got her alongside Bex and we just stood her there. We put the lead rope in Bexy. She can't move her hands at the moment. So we put the lead rope in her lap and she walked beside her, which was quite remarkable because she thought, in all intents and purposes, she was leading the horse. And then she had her photograph taken with all of us out of the picture. Now, it was one of those pictures where if you could see behind the scenes, there's 5 people, all just in case. But actually, for the photograph, it's just Bex and Lexi. And Lexi just goes in and gives her a kiss. It's just the most. Everybody cried. It was one of those. Anyway, so she wants to get back on a horse. But of course, a brainstem stroke means she's locked in pretty much, bless her. But she's so determined and she's physiotherapy, she's, hydrotherapy. Her parents are really determined as well to get her every opportunity out there, funding for every opportunity out there. And she started going to an RDA on a mechanical horse, which is a life-size horse, but it's plastic and it moves. And she's done it. She's sat on it independently.
Wow.
2 years ago, that was like, could we achieve this? Could we achieve this? And yes, and she can now hold her own head up. She couldn't hold her head up before.
Wow. And that again, you look back and you go, that again, the full circle, the community, the goal setting, even they haven't set a goal in, say, a book and it's all the affirmations in front of the mirror, but just like you said at the very beginning, the connection with what you said, once you have a horse, you're almost a horse for life type of thing. That drawing and the power coming through for that young lady there to come in and to give her that glimmers or give a focus that's changing the relationship. And like you said, your accident doesn't define you. You're moving forward with it, which is incredible to have, again, an increased quality of life, an increased mental health and well-being. And yeah, it's just incredible. Now, we're talking a lot about equestrian life, and with equestrian life, there's normally some very special people in it. Now, there's a special someone that we've spoken about but hasn't been mentioned by name yet, but I hear they've got somewhat of a little personality, and I'd imagine it's only got to be the one and only Winnie, which is your first international dressage horse. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
it is. Yeah,
You want to give
Winnie's.
them a little understanding of your connection with them and how you've
Yeah,
grown together with Winnie?
yeah. So when I returned back to the saddle and had exhausted all of the opportunities with the RDAs in terms of horsepower, I had to start looking for my own horse. And I went to what was then Summerhouse Equestrian, which is now Prestige Equestrian in Gloucester. I went there and had a lesson and with Sarah Gallop, who was coaching at the time. And I said to her, I really want to get my own horse now. And she said, okay, what do we need? And we went through the requirements and everything of what we needed. And because Sarah had never done para equestrian either, so we were learning the ropes together. And she said, I'll look out for one. Anyway, went back the next week, and you won't believe this. I went to a yard yesterday to look for somebody else for a horse, and there was this big grey horse there. And she's got an amazing walk. And I got on her like, we have to get you on to see whether she would be okay. She said she's solid as a rock. I took a video and she showed me the video, and it was like, oh my God. My dream horse was a dapple grey horse. And I had a Grand Prix dapple grey horse before, and obviously lost him when I lost everything. And I said, that's weird that it would be a dapple grey horse. Anyway, she said, I'm going to bring her here for you to try. So 2 days later, go to the yard, and there's this massive, I mean, she is huge, grey horse, and with dapples all over her, little dapple grey spots all over her, and she just was adorable. And I sat on her for the first time and thought, this is my horse. You just get a feeling for it. It's like when you go into a house, when you're moving house, and you
Yes.
go, this is where we're going to live. You know, you get that feel. And I just had that feel from her. And she'd been, unfortunately, sent to the yard on sales livery because the people that owned her were getting a divorce and they had to separate their horses. So anyway, so we bought her that week because she was so lovely, and she had such a good walk. Anyway, since then, it's been one crazy episode after another with her because she's a huge, powerful horse that you would not think would be suitable for a disabled athlete. She makes a mockery of the teams around her. She finds it really entertaining. She is clumsy. When she's in the field, she'll run around, forget there's a fence, and run into it. She's honestly the clumsiest creature and the funniest creature that anybody will ever meet. And she's very forthright. So whereas Lexi, my other horse, is very soft and gentle, and she'll come into me. They blow in through their noses into you, and it's such a lovely feeling. She's just straight in my face. She's straight on me like that. You know, and she's been on my scooter. I've tried to go up the mountain block, and she's been coming up it behind me. And I'm like, no, you've got to stand in front of it. She's just so comical. You can't not love her. But we were selected to compete in Deauville 19, I think it was. And she was so excited about the news of being selected that she went into the field and did a handstand and injured herself. I know. So we couldn't go
An
to
excitable
Deauville.
child then, isn't it, really?
Yes, but it was such a bad injury that they thought that we'd have to put her to sleep because she wouldn't recover from it and she'd be in too much pain to even be a field ornament. So she gave me a year of absolute trauma. I had 2 vets cry because they couldn't get her sound, because everybody knows Winnie. You know, we go to a competition. She had over 100 people come to watch her. It was just an amazing thing. She'd got me onto the British team. I was fortunate I was in a position to be able to help her. So we didn't have her put to sleep. We kept her. We spent the pandemic in Wales because we sent her there to be a horse in a undulating countryside of Wales, which is good for them. She went there for a short period of time. Then the pandemic hit. She ended up being there for nearly 2 years. Then she came back to me with an idea that if she was going to be rideable again, if she'd recovered enough to be rideable, then I would use her as my therapy horse and take her to any demos we did as a therapy horse. But actually, she went, no, I'm coming back and I'm coming to a competition. Thanks very much. So, yeah. So I took her to a competition last year. We qualified for an international, but then unfortunately I was injured, so we've not done it. But the dream is to get her to an international this year, just to do it. With no aspirations of getting on the podium this time. She took me to 3 podiums before. She's quite an incredible horse. And it's just, there's such a big community around Winnie. The lady who sold her has kept in contact with her, as did her ex-husband. So they're, big supporters. And it's just a lovely community around her. We're hoping to get her to Hartbury in July. If we can't do that, it'll be Wellington near Reading in the October. But there will be hundreds of people there crying, no doubt.
Wow. And again, even they say that the connection with the horse even knew to have the right mindset. You
God, yeah.
sent it away to the right community out
Yeah.
in Wales, roaming around. There's sort of this lovely sort of cycle that goes through, and talking so much about mindset. Sometimes I think we can almost overlook how people might have limiting beliefs and how that can hold people back. And you're now coaching young riders all over the place. What sort of some of the common limiting beliefs or imposter syndrome that you see people struggle with when they come to the foundations?
Yeah. I think most of it's a difficult world. Coaching is a difficult job. And for me, there are trainers and there are coaches. Trainers train you how to ride a horse, and they train your horse, and the coaches coach you into being an athlete, to get the better out of yourself, to get those marginal gains that are going to pick you to the top of that podium. But they are also the ones that help you build your team, help you build your mindset, help you understand the course that you're on, give you the tools to be able to do that. In the foundation, we have obviously me. I've done this, I've lived this, but also we have an amazing group of coaches alongside me as well that do the ridden coaching and the driving coaching. And we also have a mindset coach who specializes in she's an NLP practitioner, and she specializes in that. But it's I think for us, and what sets us apart from a lot of the others, is that there are disabled people running this foundation. So we've been it, we've done it, we've lived it, we've come back from adversity, we've come back from injury. And it is all about how you perceive things and how you perceive your brain telling you the wrong information. Because your brain is always going to try and protect you from failure, protect you from abuse or being injured or whatever. But that also then gives you a limiting belief that you're not capable, you're not worthy, it's too much for you. And it's understanding that the part of the brain that's trying to protect you is necessary, and you shouldn't ever ignore it. But at the same time, you have to understand that you've got to tell it, no, I'm good with this. Thanks for letting me know, but I'm actually quite good with this. And that's what we have with my athletes. Like this week, we've had the national championships going on. So we've had athletes wanting a pep talk before they go in. Do your breathing. Horses sync with our heartbeats. They sync with heartbeats in the field. So if you see 10 horses out in the field, they'll have their heartbeats synced. And the reason they do it is because they are prey animals. So if one of the heartbeats goes out of sync, they hear it. Think he's spotted something. What do we need to do? And then they go. And it's the same for us. So if you get on your horse and your heartbeat is elevated, so is your horse's. But you can bring your heartbeat down with breathing exercises. So we do that. And this week, that's all it took for our one rider, who then went and got a personal best she had Paralympic judges scoring her for the first time. She was suddenly realized that, and she was like, oh my God. I did a quick call with her, and then I sent her some WhatsApps. You've got this, remember breathing, now go do it. That's all it is. I love doing it. I would love to go to a Paralympics and get myself a medal, no question. But if one of my riders does it, then I'm great with that too. I think that's, for me, it doesn't have to be me. It's not all about me. I do have my own Paralympic dreams alongside. But if somebody comes through our pathway, then fab. We're just about to launch our coaching pathway next, which brings the coaches into this way of being with your athletes. And that will be equestrian, but we're also now looking outside of equestrian, how we bring that into other sport. So yeah, we've got a huge future for this.
Wow, which is amazing. And again, everything sounds like, coming back to where you have your own aspirations, but also the foundations that you can provide for the people that want to join that and do other things. They can then see the same as the grassroots to the elite riders, the same as the lady that was able to stand up in the wheelchair. It was okay, here's the little benchmark. where do we want to go to? Where's that drive? The same with Winnie. It's all sort of gearing up to the right way. We mentioned at the beginning, getting back onto the horse for the first time, you had several people around you, and now the foundation is building support and a community around people. How do people go about deciding who to keep in the corner or in their circles? Because I'd imagine you've had lots of different people in your past that have been in your circles, one for the right reasons and possibly some for not the right reasons. But
Yeah.
how do you find who's right?
It's really simple in a way. It's people who empower you. So, there are people who will empower you and there are people who will disempower you. It's not always done for bad reasons. It's just that sometimes what they think they can do at the beginning changes. It's actually quite a different thing being a para coach, because able-bodied coach, you tell the rider to get on and you tell the rider to do this, that, and the other. With a para athlete, you've got to get the rider on. You've got to ensure their safety. You've got a much more hands-on approach to it physically. Normally your coach doesn't touch you, and in parasport they have to touch you. And some coaches find that quite difficult because they're not used to touching people, or they don't know whether to say to us, can you use that leg? How do you do that leg? Or whereas I would much rather somebody say that to me if they think it's going to help me. I don't care how you get me on a horse, as long as I get on it. You can throw me at it if you have to. I'm not bothered as long as I get on it, and you're not going to kill me in the process. I'm happy. But we are a bit inhibited in this country as well, as you will know.
Yeah.
It's not the same as perhaps in the US. I've got family that live in the US as well, and they're completely different to how we are with things. But it's just having that team around you that empower you, and want you to achieve. And one of my taglines is, if you believe, you achieve. It's all about that positive attitude to it. If I think to myself, well, I want to go to Hartbury with Winnie. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. Then I'm setting negatives and the limiting beliefs are kicking in. And actually, I'm saying, right, we're going to aim for that. If we can't aim for that, we're going to have October to aim for. And Lexi will go to Hartbury, my other horse. And that's just me being proactive in it, and you've got to manifest these things. And manifesting isn't magic. It's having belief in yourself. All of these things that we do with our athletes we have a performance call the last Tuesday of every month with all of our athletes who are on the program. And, it always goes off on some kind of tangent because we'll start with a topic, but other people bring out their ideas of it, and then it'll go off onto a tangent. And they're brilliant because we've got such a huge range of experience from our coaches, and all of our coaches are level 4 coaches, the highest you can get in this country. And we've got our mindset people, and we've got me, the performance director, and we've got all of the athletes who all bring their own experiences into it as well, at elite level and at grassroots level and at therapy level.
Again, coming back from a trainer knowing A, B, C to a coach that can go, okay, we want to get to D and E, but we can't necessarily dwell too much time on A. But if we just show up every single day and make our intentions positive, so it's not just manifesting and sitting there and looking in the mirror, you need to back them up with daily actions.
Yeah.
Which again, having the community, by the sounds of it, that the foundation offers, people will then start to know that, hang on, I don't have this support in my normal circles. This is where I need to be, and almost naturally gravitate and draw people towards it. And by having your community and the foundation outlined, this is sort of our non-negotiables. People can come in and see and then go, oh, wow, okay, this is not what I've got. I know I need this.
Yeah. Well, we had a lady who's joined us 6 months ago now, and about 3 months into it, she sent me an amazing WhatsApp message saying, my family would like to thank you for setting up the foundation, because apparently I'm like a different person to live with.
Wow. Again, it's
So,
giving somebody focus. It's giving somebody direction. It's making, oh, okay, I don't need to get myself to here, but if I just get 2%, 1% better, where am I going to be? Which is incredible.
yeah.
We're going to jump on to a few quick-fire questions. If you had to put your journey into 3 short phrases instead of words, what would that be?
I think it's tricky with phrases for me,
Yeah, okay.
but I think really strong with me. Paying it forward is something I've done with the foundation, and I will continue to do. And I think make sure that everybody on your team is a cheerleader, and not a negative Nancy.
Yeah.
even if the negative Nancy stems from concern or welfare, because it can do with it, especially if it's parents. And I think highlight the negative Nancies
Yeah.
and help them to see that it's not empowering you, it's disempowering you. And have the confidence in your own belief. It's very easy to be knocked from your own belief, but you really have to have that resilient nature to have your own beliefs and go with it, because they're inevitably right.
Yeah. So trusting your gut then there.
Yeah.
And what's one misconception that people can get wrong around sort of para sports and things like that? Now, your foundation doesn't just focus on the stuff that's under the Olympics. It spans a big range now.
I think the one thing we struggle with is publicity of it. You go to a para competition, we're not televised, but the able-bodied ones are televised. And the word para comes from parallel. It was designed, the Paralympics ran alongside the Olympics in parallel. And yet, unfortunately, they're not on at the same time. And for me, they're 2 weeks after. For me, I would like to see it at the same time. In this country, when we do our national championships, we do it at the same time as the able-bodied championships. But we're bang on first thing in the morning at 7:30 when no one's coming to watch us. So there's a lot of disparity in it. It's whenever we have the Paralympics, there's a huge legacy from it. Everybody loves watching it, and there are huge stories that come out of it. When the guys on Channel 4 do the last leg, for instance, it's hilarious and it's fun, and we're like that. There's a lot of gallows humour in parasport, because we don't mind taking the mickey out of ourselves. I've got a friend who takes her legs off to ride. It's ridiculous. And one day we went back in and she'd left them we had like a changing room area. And it was in a bar. There was a bar, and somebody took a photograph and saying, "Look, Jane's left legless at the bar again." All that kind of stuff. It's fun. It's humorous, but unfortunately, we are still segregated from the main part, and it would just be nice if it wasn't so segregated.
And again, that's going to show and highlight to people who perhaps might not be, well, I'm not as good as those people, but wow, I could really take some interest with this. And
Yeah.
oh my goodness, they've got the same thing as me. I can now do that, opening and breaking down barriers, which is what I think sport is all about, is reducing barriers of whatever discipline you're on, whether you're able-bodied or not, and you've lost something and you've gone from one sport to another sport. It offers you an opportunity for something to do.
Yeah, it does.
Which is incredible. Di, thank you so much.
You're
This has
very welcome.
been an incredible conversation, so many insights and stories. Before we wrap up, where's the best place for people to connect with you or join the foundation and get involved in the Para Equestrian Foundation?
So the foundation is the Para Equestrian Foundation.org. It's the website, and the socials are Para Equestrian Foundation. And then my socials are DG Para Dressage.
Fantastic. And I'll put those in the show notes as well. But Di, thank you so much for coming in for the podcast
You're
today.
very welcome. It's been lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you.